Continuing with chapter XX, this is where we left off. This is the new slide from part one. This is part two. All right, we talked about the different ways to pay for higher education. And now we're going to go about applying for federal aid. You're all going to fill out the FAFSA, or the free application for federal student aid. I'll show you the website in class. This is going to determine how much you and your family are expected to contribute to college and university. And the amount of aid that you are going to receive when talking about financial aid depends on your financial and personal situation, looking at how much your parents make and other factors as well that come into play. So you're all going to fill out the FAFSA, which tells us how much you and your family are expected to contribute. Now, with the FAFSA and applying for federal aid, you want to apply as soon as possible, beginning January 1st of the year you will be attending. So my seniors who are attending college in the fall, you should have applied for your FAFSA already because you're going to need it for this year. Okay. Now, to apply, you don't have to be admitted. So it's very wise of you to just apply as soon as the year comes and you know you're going to be in college come September to apply for FAFSA. But to begin receiving those funds, you now have to be accepted into a school. Make sure with FAFSA you meet your school and state deadlines. And for every year in which you're going to need financial aid, you have to reapply. So your standard undergrad 4 years, you're going to have to apply 4 years with the FAFSA. So every year that you need aid, you're going to have to apply. So sophomore year, you're going to need financial aid. Apply again. Junior year, senior year, do you need financial aid? Yes. Apply again for your FAFSA. So every year in which you need it, you're going to have to apply. This is a quick video showing more about FAFSA and financial aid. I'll show this in class when we have our WSQ chat. But moving on, financial aid package formula, how they come up with how much you need. What they look at is the cost of attendance. So that's the sum of the educational costs, tuition, room and board. You take that, and for every college, we know it's different. You subtract it from your expected family contribution, or your EFC, how much your family is expected to contribute. And the difference between that is your financial need, how much you're going to need in grants, loans, etc. Your EFC, or your expected family contribution, is determined based on off of how much your family makes, your assets, your family size. Do you have any other family members in college? So that does affect your EFC, your effective family contribution. And we're going to be using the FAFSA forecaster for our college financial research project that you'll be starting tomorrow that will give us this estimate. All right. So kind of an idea of how they come up with the numbers that you see. Now, once you apply, you're going to receive what's called an award notification letter. It's just a notice that lists the types and amounts of aid in which you are eligible. Doesn't mean you have to accept them all. They will give you different loans and different packages that you can either accept or decline. You only want to borrow what you need. Okay? Only take absolutely what you need. You don't want to take more than the bare minimum of what you need. So continuing on. And we talked about this when we were watching the True Life episode, looking at good debt, bad debt. Note, the girls we were watching True Life episode, that was all bad debt. All credit card debt, depreciating value, similar to a car, it just depreciates. Okay? With going to college and university, yes, it is debt, but it's good debt. Because that is going to help you to obtain a job that you'll earn a higher income than someone else. So it appreciates in value. Having a degree is value, and that appreciates to hopefully making a good amount of money than if you were just to graduate high school, as to the graph that I showed you in part one. So this is kind of section one of part two in terms of chapter XX. Continuing on, Now, once you receive your aid, now we're going to go into the repayment process. Okay. Grace period. You want to know what your grace period is. That's the time of when you graduate to when you must begin repayment. My brother graduates on Friday. His grace period, because he has a Stafford loan, is 6 months. So for those 6 months, he does not have to pay his loans back. But as soon as those 6 months occur, he has to begin paying back his Stafford loan. For a Perkins loan, remember that's the fixed rate of 5%, is only 9 months. And with plus loans for your parents, there's no grace period. After the final distribution of funds, the first payment is due within 60 days. So there's zero grace period with a plus loan. Okay. That grace period, you start looking for your job. Hopefully you have a job upon graduation. That's the goal, in which you can save up within your grace period. So when your first loan payment comes after 6 or 9 months, you have enough to pay it off and hopefully have some saved away for future payments. All right. So you want to note your grace period. Repayment options. There are your standard repayments. They're equal monthly payments over 10 years. All right. If you can't make these standard repayments, you can ask about different repayment options. First one being consolidating loan. So if you have multiple loans, I have one subsidized Stafford and an unsubsidized Stafford, which we talked about. I could combine those two into just one payment to help myself out. I could also have what's called a graduated repayment, which is monthly payments start off small and become larger over time, kind of gradually ease me into the repayment process. There's also the income sensitive repayment, in which payments are adjusted by my expected monthly income. It's kind of based off of how much I make. And lastly, deferment or forbearance. This postpones payments. Okay, so you could not pay for an additional 6 months, but you may still accrue that interest based on the type of loan that you have. So you can say, I'm going to wait another 6 months and defer it, but you may accrue the interest during those extra 6 months. So you have to watch out. With consolidating loans, however, they can extend your repayment from 10 to as much as 30 years. So things can for you to consider if you're having a hard time repaying your loan. Default consequences. Defaulting is when you become delinquent, and delinquency means you're failing to make payments on your federal student loans. Never pays to become a delinquent or to default. Default specifically is when you're delinquent for 270 days for monthly payments or for 330 days for less than monthly payments. And it never pays. And the consequences are heavy. They can just take your money from your job, take your wages to pay off. They could just take your tax refund money. So you essentially be working for free because they'll just take your money and put it towards your loans. Your credit score will decrease. They can have your entire student loan due immediately at one time. You can also lose eligibility for future credit and also for additional aid. So never pace the full and fail to make your payments. So look at repayment options. If you need help, if you can't make your standard repayments, look at the other repayment options because the consequences are dire. And lastly, just the student loan life cycle. Just kind of put this all into a graph for us. One is research. You look at the FAFSA forecaster. How much are your parents going to contribute? That's where you apply for scholarships and grants. Second, you apply for the FAFSA. So one, research. You look at scholarships, grants. What's your eligibility? Using the FAFSA forecaster, which is a great tool. Second, apply. This is when you fill out the FAFSA. Remember, starting January 1st, the year in which you'll need aid. Third, you select. You get your award notification letter. You accept financial aid. Remember, only borrow what you need because you're going to have to repay everything that you accept. So only accept what you need. Fourth, study, go to school, earn your degree, hopefully within the lowest amount of time. And then lastly, fifth is repay. After your grace period, Stafford loan 6 months, which is the majority of what you will have, you begin paying back your loan, and we want to avoid becoming delinquents in which we fail to repay our loans. So this is the end of chapter XXX, talking about chapter XX, talking about how to pay for higher education.